technology for Visa, also responsible for the technology innovation, including AI, leads product engineering, global IT, cybersecurity, and operations infrastructure. So it's, the tech guy in a tech company, right? It's really quite impressive. And I mean, just for you, I mean, I think he will tell you a lot about Visa, but I mean, you shouldn't think of Visa as a financial services company. I mean, he emphasizes it all, but it's really one of the leading tech companies. That's why it's so interesting for us. They also are really exposed to some of the most demanding kind of requirements on tech in the global world. I mean, this is 6 nines of uptimes, 40 billions of frauds per year, etc., detection per year, and so on. And they invested heavily, billions really already over the last 10 years to prepare for the whole AI revolution. And there's a big transition now going from card to identity overall, not being the backbone for any kind of trust, security, payments, etc. So we are very much looking forward to it. As you know, our good dear friends from Google are listening to see whether you do something. So is here Gisik and Devrient, they in the digital payments, there's a family here. You'll have the round table afterwards. And you have tons of, both founders, students, and researchers here. So we're all looking very much forward to the talk. Rajat, the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Well, thank you for that warm welcome and the hospitality throughout the morning. It's been phenomenal walking the hallways over here, the energy of possibilities, the optimism in the air. It's just unbelievable. Optimism is a force multiplier, and you see that in abundance as you are all driving and building the future with deep tech. And exactly as you said, the best intro is a tech guy from a tech company. I absolutely love it. The most succinct and the perfect, that's what I am. I am responsible. I have the great privilege of being responsible for the technology at Visa. And for many of you, you may not know this, Visa is indeed a pure tech company. You might say, oh, we issue cards. We don't. Our partners issue cards. We are the platform that runs about billion transactions in real time every day. So almost every second, that's about 10 to 15,000 transactions. That was 10,000. Another 10,000 right there. Every transaction from 200 countries and territories goes to our platform. We run about $16 trillion through the platform. It's done in real time. We host it internally in our own data centers globally. Although we are completely cloud native, we are moving to the public cloud in a hybrid environment. We have a lot of focus on reliability, availability. We process in every given second of the whole day transactions that are essential to all economies. We are considered an essential service. So everything we do is in production, and our uptime, as you heard, is 6 nines, 99.9999, which is very difficult to do when you're running 1,000 changes in production every single day. Cybersecurity is another big area of our emphasis and focus. We're a very high-profile target, millions of attempts, millions, every single day to breach the network, to perpetuate fraud, and we have to stay ahead of all of that. But I consider myself to be very lucky that we are at this point in time in the dawn of, is this, should I just use? Yes. And if not, I'll just talk, and we can have just a conversation as well. It's totally cool. So we are, as practitioners of technology, builders of technology, in many ways really lucky to be working and living at this moment of time as a new era is taking birth, the revolution, the era of AI, generative AI, when the machine is not just the tool, it is our partner, it is our collaborator, and will impact every part of society. And the way I think about this is, should I just
try again?
Should I try again? Do I point to do I point somewhere? The era of generative AI in many ways is bigger than every single technology that has come before it. It will have a bigger impact than every single technology before it, and the pace of impact is faster than every technology before it. We are in the industrial revolution of technology, of AI, where the factories of today are data centers. And the output of those factories is IQ. And unlike technologies in the past, which were programmed specifically to do something, so it was very prescribed, the power of generative AI is that it has the ability to create novel output that it wasn't explicitly programmed to do. So that's sort of the really big thing. And the models are evolving rapidly at a pace that we have not encountered before. These models started off by predicting the next word logically based on their training. Then they got autonomy, they got agency, they got memory, they got context, they got ability to reason, chain of thought, and then they started creating chain of debate. They started imagining and understanding your intent. So these models are evolving in a way that we have never seen before. And it is a remarkable achievement that in some cases has taken decades of work, and in some cases it happened instantaneously. Whenever a new technology comes, I always step back and reflect what created the invention of this technology. In the case of generative AI, it was an amalgamation of different serendipitous things happening separately and then coming together in a very beautiful way. For decades, the internet has driven and created the digitization of all the knowledge of humanity, whether it is words, whether it is music, whether it is video. Over the last 40 years, it has been digitized. At the same time, 30 years ago, a young engineer sitting in a little diner in Silicon Valley, it's a restaurant called Denny's, imagined a new kind of processor which was very different to the conventional wisdom of the day. Processing of compute had always been based on a central processing unit that did everything very sequentially. But this young man by the name of Jensen Huang said, I have a different idea for scientific calculations and mathematical calculations, and I want to use lots of small cores and lots of processors working in parallel. And I want to do that because it will be very good for video, and he had a passion for video games. Turns out that those small processors that work in parallel with high memory and high frequency communication amongst themselves can do great wonders for video games, but they're also very good at doing something else, processing machine learning algorithms. And so that got created over the course of the last 30 years. So 40 years for digitization, 30 years for this wonderful computing power. And then there was still a missing ingredient for this new era to take birth, for generative AI to begin, to commence. And it was 8 young engineers in the hallways of Google in 2015 and 2016 talking about speeding up machine translation. They didn't have an edict from anybody, from their CEO or somebody to say, hey, create a new type of AI model. They were trying to brainstorm, and very serendipitously, there were 8 engineers from 7 different countries, from Germany, from US, from Canada, from India, with very diverse backgrounds and different expertise, and they started talking about different ways that could speed up translation from German to English or French to German, and they came up with the concept of the transformer, which has a technique of self-attention, having the ability to process words, massive amounts of language in parallel by giving different words different weights, which are called embeddings, and then understanding the context of the words in the sentence and the context of the sentence in paragraphs, and therefore creating the ability for transformers to encode, to get inputs, to understand what that means, and then to start predicting the next word. And that's where it began, beginning to predict the next word with a level of probability, and then moving forward and saying, I can create new things, I can write new songs, I can create prose, I can do programming, because that's all generation of new words based on what you have received as an input. And with reinforcement learning and supervised fine-tuning, it became better and better. And it is the basis of every single large language model out there. And over time, it's becoming smarter and it's becoming more capable. And it will rewire society as we know it. It will have profound impact, and I hope very soon, on medical breakthroughs, on diagnosing ailments, on finding cures, on really helping society with better quality of life and health. And we're already starting to see that. Microsoft recently released a platform called the Medical Diagnostic Orchestrating Platform that allowed different agents to work together as a team of doctors trying to diagnose 305 of the hardest medical cases that are published by the New England Journal of Medicine that real human doctors were not able to diagnose with high accuracy. And by having this autonomy, agency, understanding intent, and beginning to create what we call chain of debate, discussing with each other, ordering new tests, pushing each other's logic, it was able to diagnose 4-to-1 better than human doctors, 85% of the cases. And we are only in year 3 of generative AI. It is still a toddler in human terms, and you can imagine the benefit to society as it grows up. And I believe personally that is the urgent imperative of our time, is using this technology for quality of human life. But it will also have immense impact on medicine, on agriculture. It will have immense impact on commerce. It will have immense impact on having education, the kind of facilities that all of you have, that many of us have received during our education, the whole world doesn't have. Imagine having a Nobel Prize winning professor training you on the specific style and language that you want to learn in. It'll have impact on arts, music, video, movies, storytelling, providing new canvas to those who are highly skilled and trained and talented, and providing it as an ability for someone like myself who has creative instincts but not technically trained or skills to write songs or to create music. So it'll bring in new canvas, new tools, new capabilities. It'll have impact on fashion and art, as I was saying. And so if you sort of step back and look at what I am most excited about today in my industry, in the original fintech, Visa, the company that was SaaS before SaaS even existed as a word. We are very lucky in our company to have had deep belief and a deep understanding of AI for a long time. Our first model was released in 1993. And we've gone through 3 eras, Taylor Swift eras, if you will. The first era, almost 20 years, is the era that I call of good old-fashioned AI. Simpler models, simple math, a lot of rule-based, and that allowed us to create capabilities to protect consumers from fraud, to manage the security of our system, to manage risk, to ensure we were compliant. About 12 years ago, we sort of started looking at the future and started pivoting to the next era, which was the era of deep learning. And took a big bet of rewriting our data platform from scratch, which is a pretty big undertaking for a big company. To sort of step back and say, the underlying foundation of our company's data, it's what's running 1 billion transactions in real time every day, processing $16 trillion. Let's rewrite it from scratch and put it into production. But big decisions, big pivots, big bets require these important decisions. And it's probably the biggest, most important decision we have made. And that allowed us to move into the era of deep neural nets, to really create the next generation AI models in the company that are far more pervasive, far more broader now, and doing a lot of really good work. And even in the case of fraud, in the arms race against the bad guys who also have access to the same technology, being able to combat that in the very front lines. I don't know if you know this, but the cybercrime marketplace, if it was a GDP, is $10 trillion, growing at 32% compounded annual rate of growth. The total global GDP of all countries together is $115 trillion. So if cybercrime was its own country, it would be one of the largest countries, growing faster than every other country out there. So it is a very thriving economy, and it is up to all of us as practitioners, as builders, as innovators, and inventors to stay ahead of this by harnessing the same technology better, faster, and protecting those that we serve in the community. So we are now in this space that is very exciting. And for us, it is about catalyzing the powerful technology, not just for our own use at Visa, but also to help others out there. We have a $100 million fund that we have created to help companies with venture funding focused on generative AI. This is in addition to all the other work we do in venture investing. And so there is a great synergy here between what you're doing here and the partnership that Visa can have with you going forward. We have an arm that is focused purely on applied science. And we work with universities, we work with professors, and we work with governments to create the technologies and to think about technologies that are beyond the line of sight, 3 years, 4, 5, 10 years away, and with big, big bets on technologies that we think will have big impact, like generative AI is having today, but many years from today. And a big pillar of that, for example, is quantum computing. So there's a lot of work we are doing, a lot of investments we have made, $3.5 billion on the data platform just in the last 10 years or so. And it's very exciting. If you ask me as a technologist where I think this is going, I think we are far closer to artificial general intelligence today than most realize. Models today are testing at IQs above 130. Models today are showcasing their skills in contests like the Math Olympiad and doing very well there. They are demonstrating PhD level in physics, in math, in chemistry, in biology simultaneously. So we know they have the intelligence, and the intelligence is only going to become bigger and bigger over time. What they need is imagination. What they need is instinct. What they need is good moral values for responsible and ethical use of data. But it's evolving at a pace that, as you saw in the beginning, is extraordinarily faster than anything else that has come before it. And so super intelligence is not that far away, I think, when the models will have greater intelligence than the collective of all of humanity. And now is the time for all of us to step back, who are practitioners, and think about how will we control it when it is smarter than all of us collectively. Think of any example where something less intelligent controls something more intelligent. And if you do in the Q&A, please do tell me. Because we are at the point right now that we have to, as practitioners in industry and academia and government and other forums, have to work together to really put the guardrails around this. As I was saying, as a toddler, the current generation of models are performing higher than almost every normally intelligent human being. The average intelligence of most people is between 90 and 110, 120. Many in this room probably higher than that. That's why you're here. But the models now are definitely past that. There is an exam that has been created, hand-curated. It's called Humanity's Last Exam. I don't know how many of you have heard of it. It is the hardest exam to crack. Normal people, all of us, are testing at about 3, 4, 5%, 9%. The best model a few months ago was testing at about 25%. Grok 4, when it was released, tested at about 50%. Grok 4 Heavy, which had the ability to spawn more agents to try to answer these questions that have been put together by the smartest people on planet Earth. So we are evolving at a rate that is incredibly fast, and we have to therefore be even faster than it. And it will manifest itself in two ways. You will have intelligence that will be software intelligence that will help us write code. It will help in all the things I was talking about earlier. And then you'll have a hardware manifestation of generative AI with technologies like humanoids or self-driving cars and other aspects of our general day-to-day lives. And it's already beginning, and it is definitely a very important and a critical moment of time for all of us, because in reality, AI has two parts: the science, which is what I've been talking about so far, but the art, which is people, the policies, the principles that we use for ethical, responsible use of AI to make sure it is fair, explainable, compliant, has consent, manages privacy, doesn't drift and do bad things over time in production, doesn't have biases, can differentiate in its training from good data and bad data, doesn't hallucinate. We have the ability to manage its features through different knobs and controls. So that is a really big aspect of what I spend a lot of my time thinking about, because these sorts of capabilities that you're seeing here are in the market today. Deepfakes, personal prompt injections, synthetic identity, and so on. And we see this in real life almost every single day. So I wanted to show you something and see if you think that is real or AI. We are simplifying the development process, enabling developers to focus on creativity and innovation without worrying about security. Developers no longer need to stress about writing 100% secure code and patching immediately. Estamos simplificando el proceso de desarrollo, permitiendo que los desarrolladores se concentren en la creatividad y la innovación, sin preocuparse por la seguridad. So that's me. Was that me speaking in Spanish or AI? That was AI. And I showed it to my team. It sounds like me. The gestures are mine. It's my shirt. It's my background of my home office. And it's saying the exact opposite thing I say to my team always. I say cybersecurity is job number one. Be paranoid all the time. Be pessimistic, the pessimistic design. And here I was saying, hey, don't worry about it. You know, so my team kind of caught this very quickly. But we are seeing far more sophisticated aspects of this. So what we are focused on right now is something that will impact all of us in commerce. The internet gave birth to e-commerce. E-commerce brought the whole inventory of the world online. We could buy things, and the act of buying it became very easy, whether we are buying it in a face-to-face store, in the website, mobile apps, etc. generative AI is going to give birth to a new form called A-commerce. So we're going from e-commerce to A-commerce, which is agentic commerce, where we will all have digital twins that will be trained on our personal likes, dislikes, interests, and other aspects, and be able to really help us move from the era which is still fraught with friction in finding things, in discovering what we want to buy, in planning very complex commerce transactions, which is still the era of hunt and peck, to an era of self-driving commerce. And in order to do that, a foundation is needed, and we are working with a number of partners, that some of them are listed over here, to create the underlying foundation, which is the ability to allow agents to buy on your behalf, to really do agentic commerce, and enable the mundane aspects of commerce to be taken up by somebody who would do it exactly the way you would: price matches, warranty, incident management, shopping, registration, but also be able to bring the joys and pleasures and happiness of shopping to you by helping you discover things that you like personally, whether it's art or clothing or music or travel and vacation, but without personalization signals that are controlled by us, controlled by each of us for our agents. That won't work. So a lot of our focus right now is, as we move from e-commerce to A-commerce, is to provide that underlying foundation that will allow hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of companies and startups to create this new type of experiences built on the security and the compliance and the privacy, etc., of a network like Visa. So we have built and released the Visa Intelligent Commerce Platform, which, by the way, 85% of the code for that was written by AI itself. How about that, right? So I had a couple of snippets of an interview I did with Jared Kaplan, who's the chief scientist at Anthropic, and just some discussion on a few different areas that I wanted to show you. But in the interest of time, I'm going to skip that so we can have a Q&A, and then you can watch that later on if you like. And there's a full video of that also available if you're interested. Jared is a brilliant, brilliant scientist, one of the leading thinkers driving Claude and the work at Anthropic. And it was a fascinating discussion that I had with him on where things are going and what they are thinking in Anthropic and what he's thinking himself. So I'll end there and then look forward to just a dialogue with you, all of you.
Thank you very much for the impressive talk. And before I go to the Q&A, I have to say I'm rarely impressed by half numbers, but a $10 trillion market with a 30% growth rate did impress even me. Now, to all the potential founders, I think this is not your market, right? Don't go over to the dark side, right? We're trying to keep it up. Now, look, it was, I think, a wonderful view from GoFi to superintelligence, if I may say, of the AI journey. Now, you are at TUM, right? You are at TUM and you're the founders at TUM. So we often sit there and say, I think we know that. Do large companies actually realize it, right? I mean, we are always asking, or do they drown in change management? Can we work with them? Now, obviously, you can work with you. So I think there are lots of questions how to do that. Please, I'll give the thing to the audience and also the students, first row. Whoever has a question dares to ask. Don't be shy. Here, can we get more mics? I'll give you mine, but I want more. Thank you. Please perhaps say quickly who you are for the audience quickly, and so they know.
Wolfgang Seidel from ESCP Business School. What's the challenge and also potentially the opportunity of future cryptocurrencies?
Yeah, look, that's a great question. As you know, if you look at stable coins, which recently has gone through some regulatory clarity in the US with an act called the Genius Act that was recently signed. It gives the ability for a platform like us, and we have been working on this for several years, for 5 years right now, to have a bridge into the network and a bridge out of the network for stable coins to be utilized, bought, and spent. So we've done about $125 billion through this platform. We have a settlement capability. We settle in multiple currencies every day between the issuers and the acquirers that support the 4.5 billion cards on one side and the 150 million or so merchants on the other side. So one of the currencies we have is a USDC. And now with the act in the US, there is more regulatory clarity, and I think it's going to enhance the ability for cross-border business-to-business payments in stablecoin. It's going to enable those who are in countries that wish to own US dollar but are not able to do it to be able to get that through stablecoins, as well as where there's volatility in their currency. So it's something that we have been working on, have the foundational platform, and about $125 billion or so far.
How do you assess the threat that the visas of this world are completely circumvented?
I think there are two. So the high volume, low transaction, a network like blockchain cannot handle. So if you are running a transaction in 300 milliseconds, which is the general latency of a transaction. If you have a coffee here and you buy it, it will go from the merchant to their acquiring bank, to Visa, to the issuing bank that issued you the card that will check for your credit limit, etc., back to us, back to the acquirer, back to the merchant in 1/3 of 1 second. And we do that 1 billion times a day and are compliant with the laws of 200 countries and territories and are protecting against millions of cyber threats every day. So that infrastructure augments an infrastructure like blockchain, which is very good for different use cases, and the two together with something like a stable coin, I think, are greater than the sum of the parts.
Thanks a lot. You had a question right here. I'll get to you in a second, okay?
Thank you so much for the presentation, very clear, and Simons and Solaris back. So now we're in Europe, and we're pretty known for regulation compliance, right? I recently was so fortunate to be invited by Visa and also meet with Paul Carr from the risk office, and he was very much focusing on collaboration and, of course, regulatory compliance in battling fraud. Right? So my point is around AI, because I know Jamie Dimon was also out very recently to say banks need to be extremely careful of how they implement AI, because they need to document how decisions are made, how financial decisions are made. Right? So what's Visa's thinking around your strategy in staying ahead of the curve with your AI, technology and your releases versus being regulatory compliant? Is that the question?
Yeah, they're very clear. Right. A couple different things. By the way, I think I'm the most audited person ever, because every country considers Visa a essential service, and they're auditing internal audit, external audit. So every day there's some audit going on. So I completely live and breathe regulations, and I think that regulations are good because they protect the consumers. Their intent is very good. Sometimes they can be contradictory, and so we take the highest common denominator and do what every country needs in the letter as well as in the spirit. So when we build models, the specific point you were making, every model follows a set of data use principles, which are documented principles. So we start by saying, what data are we using? Are we following the principles of compliance, privacy, fairness, explainability, drift oversight, governance, and so on. And then a second team that didn't build the model reviews and signs off on the model. Then we move the model to model risk management, which aligns and assigns it a risk scoring of how risky it is, which will put it in a different tier of oversight. And then we oversee it in production for drift management. So that model, which I call the AI observability model, and we have a catalog of every single model that was ever built, no matter what the technology was, is then managed the same way, whether it was a deep neural net, anomaly detection, XGBoost, or it is using a large language model. With large language models, we have additional safeguards that our data is not going to be used for training. Our data is not being shared by the provider of the model. So we have built a generative AI platform that separates and abstracts our data from the public data, and we store everything internally.
Very clear. Thank you. I just want to add to it. It sounds like the analogy is a little bit like the tip of the iceberg, right? That you can bring tremendous scale through AI, but not every organization is geared to actually handle the work that is required to actually implement and use such a model.
I think every organization should be embracing and using it deeply because it will add so much of value to it, but they should do it very thoughtfully. I talk about the science and the art. The science is actually relatively easier, comparatively speaking, but every organization should have their views on their policies, on their principles, and the other pieces that I talked about. But I think orgs should lean in and use it. I mean, this is such a powerful technology that they should not get intimidated because it is possible to have safeguards and be compliant. And so it's Boolean logic is an and versus an or.
Thank you.
You behind you, can you just hand it behind you immediately? And so, sorry, other people, if they just give me a signal, then okay, Can you then get up there too? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the talk. I'm Michael Wagner. I work in innovation technology consulting. Obviously, AI has a lot of advantages and chances we see, but you also mentioned something which makes me sometimes wonder, a bit worried. You talked about, let's say, more on private life. You want to create new music. You research new art, and if AI supports us in this and kind of anticipates what we would like, it takes off all the work from our hands to do the work ourselves. But I also wonder whether this takes out the passion and makes us even more passive. So kind of takes away the human nature to, let's say, more in private life, to a hobby. Do you think this will change us as humans and there's a danger of dehumanizing us?
Look, I think those are all very important topical questions. The reality is we don't know the answer to that. There are a lot of thinking and debates going on, and is it a good thing or a bad thing that it is doing all this for us? I have my own point of view, personal point of view, which is that the mundane aspects of life that are not adding energy to us, it should do for us. Like when you're buying something, in the case of just commerce, it should do all the routine things of registrations and warranties and price matches and getting you the manual, etc. But it should enhance your quality of life by bringing to you, if it's music or art or travel, the joys of that by helping you discover things that otherwise you may not have, right? By making the world smaller, by bringing to you artists or musicians or whatever be your area of interest that otherwise you would not have been able to find, correct? So that's part one. The part two is, will it take away the humanity of artists and the creative aspects of life, right? Don't know. I think it should, hopefully will, provide a new canvas for highly talented artists and creative people to have another channel of maybe doing things faster or being able to do things that they otherwise would not have been. So the body of art and creative should be much bigger, part one. Part two, for people I was mentioning like myself who have creative instincts, I want to write a song, I want to sing a song, I have zero talent, is going to allow me to do that better, right? So there's a model called Suno.ai. I don't know if any of you have used it. If you have, it's a really cool model. It allows you to write songs and music and curate it for your own interest. It was my dad's birthday recently, and I was thinking, oh, I will take some pictures of him and put some music from when he was very young. But instead of doing it, I wrote a song telling what all the family feels about my dad and put the Bollywood music that he likes and then ran it, which was far more personal than I could ever have done before, right? So I think there are going to be good and bad aspects, and time will tell. I hope it's good, net good. That's my hope, and yeah.
Thank you. Well, let's see. Let's see where we go. Vinod Kochler actually put your question in a similar way this weekend. He said, if intelligence and possibly energy are free, how do you incentivize people, right? Not so trivial. Okay, so here, up there, finally here. Yes.
Thank you very much for the talk, very insightful and super optimistic. I wonder what is, at the mega level, your opinion of the agent economy. Is it more shifting towards the winner-take-all dynamic, or how is it?
I hope not. I hope my view, technical view, is that there will be lots of agents created by lots of small companies and people who are startups, or even because it's so easy to create them now because of the ability to take an idea and to flesh it out, that there will be thousands and millions of these agents that can talk to each other and do different things in very good ways, with standard protocols for agents to talk to agents or for systems to talk to systems. So you have A2A protocols, you have the MCP concept that allow a thriving ecosystem of innovation and invention to happen in the future. Now, just like with every other technology, though, there may be some concentration of certain types of agents that a bigger company needs to create because of regulations or compliance, other reasons.
Right, but at the same time also are becoming users of just a few who provide these agents.
Who provide the models. You mean who provide the models today. So yeah, look, I think while there may be fewer providers of frontier models, the big models, the highly trained models, there are going to be a lot of small specialized models too. So if you go to Hugging Face, I think there are 1 million models over there right now, if I'm not mistaken, even more than 1 million. But then you have the 6 big ones, right? The OpenAI, the Anthropic, the Gemini, Llama, and Grok, for example, you know. And then some countries will have their own sovereign, large, frontier model. So I think it'll be a mix.
Thank you so much.
So you'll have lots of opportunities, right? Let's flip to the other side. Yeah, I think you already have the mic, right? Perhaps say quickly who you are and then.
Thank you very much. I'm Johannes. I'm a student from Munich. I'm about to do an exchange here. And my question to you is, you have to be up to date in so many cutting edge technologies, let's say AI or cybersecurity. And you just mentioned when a new technology happens, you like to reflect and look how this technology emerged, kind of like inversion, like a mental model. What are the mental models, you would say, you use to hopefully make better decisions, if you have?
Yeah, I think two things, right? So with every new technology or an upgrade or an update to the technology, it's always wonderful to have a different aperture to say what enables technology to evolve, and how does it, like an organism, how does it evolve, what is its life cycle? Because there's lots of learnings in that across every part of society, to be honest. So that's a very important way technology can help inspire, motivate us, and teach us. And then your second part of the question was what mental model I have for technologies. Can you just explain that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you have to make decisions such that your company will thrive.
Yeah.
And obviously it's dependent on how good your decisions are.
Yeah.
So
for every decision that we make, a technology decision, it is sort of from the customer backwards, right? What is the pain point? What are we trying to solve for a customer? And then how can technology in the way it exists today, or the way it could exist in the future, or by connecting two technologies that are not talking to each other today, we make life better for our customers. So it begins with the output, with what you're trying to solve, and then work backwards to technology solving. I'll give you a quick example. We have a software called Authorize.net, which allows small merchants to go online and manage connection to different gateways for payments, risk, and get intelligence on what's going on. Now, if you were a baker, this is not something that you know or understand or enjoy. You enjoy your craft of baking. So what we are doing is, okay, that's a problem that hundreds of thousands and millions of small merchants have. How can we use technology to help them on board to do all those mundane things better by having a generative AI talk to them, understand what they're doing, and then do all that on their behalf. So that was a problem. Then we step back and say, okay, let's solve it with this new novel technology in a way that we are doing it better. Or differently. You know, there's a Nobel Prize winning physicist who once said that discovery consists of looking at the same thing as everybody else, but thinking something different. That's what will separate the really good decisions from the decisions that are not so good.
That's all right, I think. So we have to come to the end, and I've so far ignored the first row because I get the round table, but one question I'll give to the first row. Here you go. Sorry, I have to. Yeah.
My name is Flora. I'm a founder, Munich-based, running an AI company. And I would like to ask a follow-on question on your advice to organizations to lean in. Because if I remember it correctly, there's an MIT study, quite controversial, that 95% of corporate AI projects currently fail. So the ones that lean in, they fail. What's your advice? What are you doing differently at Visa that makes you succeed?
Fail fast. I think failure is a very beneficial thing if you can learn from it very quickly. So if you don't lean in, at some point you're going to start, right? Like when the internet started, some people leaned in and said, oh, I want to create a new type of company for shipping food for dogs, pet.com, or delivering groceries. And they didn't do well at that time because it was too soon. But coming out of those learnings, big industries have been formed. Now, if you do it quickly and learn and have the open mind and pivot and understand, you can be far more successful. I think it's important, though, to go in and walk the walk. It has to be practically experienced and not theoretical for you to sort of really get the learnings.
So technically I should stop, but we are for the audience, so I give you the last question, you beg it for it, right? So, okay.
One question, because you described AI is transforming a lot of things, especially your backbone. So your technology stack is wonderful. But now coming to the customers, so what is changing for us? We have let's say a payment behavior, and behavior is changing very slow. So what's the impact now of all this technology change and looking on Visa, and you're just a provider for paying every day? What changed for us? What's the impact on our customer behavior?
I think it'll take time to sort of first get the benefits and then to embrace and adopt this. And it'll follow a normal curve, bell-shaped curve, if you will. But I think what foundational companies have to do is to make it very safe and very secure and give you control. Make sure your privacy is protected, that you know what's going on and can give consent. So our job right now is to create the fundamental underlying foundation on which a beautiful house and things can be built, right?
Do you think the payment behavior will change in the future?
It possibly could. It possibly could and might, because you will now delegate to your agent to buy on your behalf, right? So today you control every payment in one way or the other, whether it's electronic, tap to pay, click, or no matter what it is, or dip your card. And as agents do more of that for you, you're going to say, okay, I want this agent to do it, but for these type of transactions with this kind of a behavior and with these merchants and so on. And so you'll still have a level of control, but the behavior will definitely change in the future with e-commerce, with the A doing a lot of that for you. And so our infrastructure has to allow that to happen and also meet the regulatory requirements of 200 countries and territories.
So thank you very much, Rajat. So I hope you see the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
As you have seen, you have to come back.
I will. Okay. I'm so energized. I will come back.
They're really eager to continue this discussion with that. So yes, you can make a quick stop in Berlin to satisfy the rest of the world, and then come back. Sam came here first, so he also said Berlin is nice, but Munich is more important. So please come back. And another round of applause so we will remember that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.